I don't know any other internet mechanics that do this, which is I do you a walkthrough before I have all my information, my detective work, my train of thought. So let's do it again on this. What is this? A Grand Marquis Mercury. I think it's 2009 with the V8. They went to O'Reilly's to get some free code scanning before coming to me. We got the fuel rail pressure sensor, high input, fuel temperature sensor A, circuit low input. Backstory. Fuel rail pressure sensor was replaced over a year ago. After that, no problems. Then again, months later, took it to a shop. They said fuel rail pressure sensor. They thought, well, we did buy the cheap one, so maybe that is the problem. Now here we are months later again with the same code. Oh, hey. I love you. I'll be up there.
Okay, I need you to bring me cigarettes.
Okay. It's a few days ago, it started running junky again. They thought maybe they got bad gas, water in their tank, whatever. Put some high octane in her. Alright, they put some high octane fuel in it, some water remover just in case that was the problem. It ran better for a day. Then the next day it starts doing its spitting and sputtering a little bit, and then the next day it stalls out on them. They're in a parking lot. That's the backstory. He calls me up, being the nice guy I am. I give him a scanner, some fuel pressure tester stuff, you know, bunch of tools. He can't figure nothing out. Comes back to the next day. It starts up when he puts his foot on the throttle and he makes it over here. I go to bring it in from outside. It didn't really want to start, but it did eventually start, and I pulled it in. Sitting here at idle, it's surging. Vroom, vroom, vroom. And we got black smoke out of the tailpipe. He also picked up more codes, like O2 sensor codes, which makes sense. If you're running rich, running lean, there's a fuel problem, fuel pressure problem. Your O2 sensors codes are going to say, hey, there's a problem. We're running rich, we're running lean. So I'm going to ignore those codes and focus on the FRP code. Now, I may be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure these fuel pumps on these run high, and then the fuel pressure regulator brings it down to where it should be. So if the fuel pressure regulator isn't working, we'll set off a fuel rail pressure code, perhaps a temperature code, O2 sensor codes, because the fuel, if your pressure's too high, you got the fuel injectors with pulse width. They're opening and closing. If the fuel pressure's too high, it's going to squirt out too much fuel, give you a flooding situation, kind of like, you know, oh, it won't start till you hit the gas pedal. Opens the throttle body, you get more air in because you're already maxed out on fuel, so it'll actually start. So this is my real-time, live train of thought. First thing I want to do is put the scanner on it, check those codes again, and then go through my live data, see what we can find. Unfortunately, these cars do not have a fuel pressure test port, Schrader valve, connector, nothing like that. All you have is this fuel rail pressure sensor. Now, we do run off of some vacuum here, so we want to make sure we got good vacuum here. Now, these are tied together with the EGR vacuum, so if there was no vacuum or a problem here, I would think I would get some sort of EGR code as well. So doubtful that we're missing vacuum or low or high vacuum or whatever. So I'm gonna still stick with going to the scanner first. All right, confirmed. We got fuel rail pressure, we got high input, we got the temperature, we got the oxygen sensor, indicates rich. The fuel rail pressure sensor, circuit high, does that mean the fuel pressure is way too high or way too low? Let's click on the old question mark. Look at this, possible causes, damaged PCM. Now, because it's already been changed twice, I feel like we're gonna have like some other issue going on, like the fuel pressure regulator sometimes is not working properly. For it to take over a year, for it only messing up a couple times here and there, like it seems weird. Like that would be a weird situation that it didn't go out sooner all the way. that it's just malfunctioning. Sometimes that seems weird, but you know, could be a wiring problem, could be a bad sensor. Sensor signal is greater than self-test maximum. Let's go to live data. On our live data, we can even isolate only the things that we want to see. Fuel information here. We got fuel rail pressure desired, 60 psi. Actual fuel rail pressure, as read by the fuel rail pressure sensor, 76 psi. We got 5 volts at the 5 volt reference there. What's cool is we can go around and unplug our sensor, and we also need to find that fuel temperature sensor. I don't know if anything's tied together on this vehicle as far as circuits. That's always fun to figure out and look up. We look at our wiring harness. Wiring harness looks a-okay. Pull on your wires, make sure they're not loose. Look for corrosion in your connector and your sensor. I do believe that fuel rail pressure sensor is reading accurately, if I had to say so. We unplug the sensor, and our fuel rail temperature drops to 61 degrees. Fuel rail pressure still at 76. Here is our fuel rail pressure sensor right here in front of us. 72.33 my cost with discount through Napa. Bada boom, that's the sensor. Plug in our fuel rail pressure sensor and our temperature goes back up to 224 degrees. That is a long difference in whatchamacallit, temperature. That's like almost a 300 degree swing whether it's plugged in or plugged out. Fuel rail pressure still at 76. I don't know if the fuel rail temperature sensor is built into the fuel pressure sensor. I think it is. I could be wrong. Let me get on the old computer and check out some diags. I'm going to go ahead and erase these codes now. And it's easy peasy just like that. Off the top of my head, I know some fuel pumps have the fuel pressure or fuel temperature sensor built into the pump. This has 7 wires, 2 different wiring harnesses coming off of it. That's going to be more than just power and ground to the pump, and 2 wires for your fuel gauge, your level sensor, your float. So maybe there is a temperature sensor in this. Still just starting my research. But when we unplug the fuel pressure sensor, it changes our temperature sensor. So if that sensor doesn't double as a temperature sensor, then it's somehow tied together electrically with the fuel pump there. And things can throw off other things. Another thing I know about is some vehicles, like the fuel temperature sensor should only be with natural gas engines. So if you're getting this code, then it should be a bad PCM. But if there's not supposed to be a fuel rail temperature, then why am I getting a code and why is it showing on live data? I don't think that's the case. Let's do some more research. I'm gonna start it up. And see what my numbers are, if it'll start. 2 different fuel pump options. This one says 44 psi pressure rating, max pressure 87, and the other one said 36 psi. 2 different options. I don't know why there's 2 different options. I'll look into that as well. Started up running. It is chugging. You can see our fuel rail pressure has not changed at all. It's just stayed steady at 76. Super duper steady, no fluctuation. There's our fuel rail pressure desired. They're pretty similar. Fuel rail temperature, we're at 219. That's less than 244 or whatever it was. Revving it up, you can see our fuel rail pressure doesn't change at all. Stays right there at 5 volts, 4.98. No changes. Let off the gas. It did try to die on me. As you can see, when we got the throttle down, our desired fuel pressure is fluctuating. Let off the gas a little. Looks like it's about to rain. We got lots of blacky black. That indicates to me that the car is running rich, which is backed up by the data on the scanner with the O2 sensors. Indeed, running rich. What happens when you unplug this bad boy, you ask? Nothing. Vacuum line. Let's grab a tool for that. Hear that? We're getting vacuum. And we have, bada boom, there's the problem, baby. That's why we're rich. We're rich, baby. It is busted internally. Oh, she's running better now. Just like that. Oh, let's stop dripping fuel all over here and shut her off. Wow. What an easy find. I thought I was gonna have to pull up some electrical diagrams. No. No further research needed. We know what's going on. Perfect. I assume that sensor is busted internally. It's spitting out fuel, and that's to the vacuum of the engine, so it's sucking in all that fuel, getting super rich. Way too much fuel. Everything's confirmed. Everything makes sense. There was a story to be told, and it all lines up in the end, baby. That's why we're getting a crazy reading from the temperature circuit. It's busted internally. Something's going on. You unplug it, boom, then it goes to minimum like it's supposed to. You plug it back in, it goes over maximum because there's internally damage. And that's crazy because they put one on, it failed. A shop put another one on, and this is all within, I think they said, a year and a half. It's had 2 of them. So manufacturers, do better. You should not be changing fuel rail pressure sensors every 6 months. Now let's see what brand they put on here. And we might end up going dealership on this one. Unless that is a dealership one, then we'll go aftermarket. Whatever failed, we'll go the opposite. All right, here's our sensor. Looking around. I don't see any part numbers, FOMOCO, nothing on it. We may have to take this bad boy off and then flip it around to see the name brand. Let's get another one coming. So while we wait on parts, I left that sensor unplugged, and it was a little hard to start still, but it ran. You wouldn't know there was any problems with it unplugged. So if you run into a situation like this, need to make it home, unplug it.